Biden's America. Here's how much Bidenomics has cut your paycheck. They're trying to gaslight people and pretend like the economy is doing great, jobs are going great, everything is wonderful. But we know when we go to the grocery store and purchase things and we make our purchases, we know what's really going on. No matter what they try to say, Bidenomics is a disaster. Our economy is a disaster. I think it's one of the worst economies in history. But before we get started, go to hit that like button, share this out so we get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. Has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store. Also, check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for news as well. All right, let's talk about this news. President Joe Biden is trying to energize his support base by asserting that his economic policies, known as Bidenomics, has successfully addressed the economy's issues. However, most regular Americans aren't witnessing the benefits he frequently mentions. In fact, during the Biden era, people's paychecks have been significantly impacted. Americans are contending with numerous factors eroding their purchasing power. The administration has led to substantial increases in the costs of gasoline, food, rent, mortgages, utilities, and nearly all other essentials. I don't know anything that we can purchase right now that say that is cheaper than it was than when Trump was in office. But Biden's policies have caused financial hardships for all Americans, but his problematic Bidenomics approach has particularly affected the lower and middle classes. I mean, he completely destroyed the middle class as we know it. But since assuming office, the cost of living has surged by 16% due to inflation, according to a report by Tiana Lowe Deutscher, published in the Washington Examiner on Thursday. Consequently, American spending power has decreased by 16%. So take that into account. Not only is stuff 16% higher, our spending power is 62% lower. So that's like a 32%. If you add that together, that's 32% worse off than what we were under Trump. But, quote, these numbers become even more alarming when you dissect them based on the categories where the less privileged spend a disproportionate portion of their incomes, Deutsche explained. The specific consumer price index for food has risen by 19% since January 2021, while electricity prices have increased by 23%, she noted. Prices for used cars have experienced an astonishing 30% surge, and car repair costs are now 23% higher than they were 2 years ago. I mean, this is unsustainable. The economic situation has deteriorated to the point where Fitch Rating recently downgraded the country's credit rating from AAA to AA+. And then the media is ignoring this fact. But this change, announced last week, received strong criticism from Shark Tank personality Kevin O'Leary, who referred to it as a detrimental development for the United States. Quote, there's no way to soften the impact of this. It's unequivocally negative. You can gauge how severe it is by considering that when you downgrade the U.S. economy, as this downgrade signifies, you're losing some trust in the U.S. dollar and the U.S. Treasury bonds, O'Leary stated on Tuesday. I mean, this is big news. Again, mainstream media, aside from some of the business channels, aren't really reporting this downgrade. But the Biden administration also faces condemnation from the Heritage Foundation for this downgrade. Quote, E.J. Antoni, a research fellow at the Grover M. Herman Center for Federal Budget at the think tank, attributed this directly to the Biden administration's excessive spending, borrowing money, and money printing. Antoni told the Daily Caller News Foundation, as yields on U.S. Treasuries rise, the expenses for servicing the debt skyrocket, Antoni elaborated. According to the latest monthly data from the Fiscal Service, the Treasury is spending around $1 trillion annually. People don't understand how much $1 trillion really is. But this interest expense add to the deficit, leading to an escalating debt, resulting in even higher financing costs, increased interest rates, and so on. It's a downward spiral. Peter Earle, an economist at the American Institute for Economic Research, highlighted that this downgrade was only the second in U.S. history. The first occurred in 2011 during Barack Obama's presidency. So think about that. The only two downgrades ever in history happened under two Democratic presidents. I wonder why that is. But, quote, for only the second time in history, the first being August 2011, the credit rating of the issuer of the U.S. Treasury bonds, namely the U.S. government, has been lowered. Early stated in a tweet, now under the rebranded name X. This signifies increasing doubts about the U.S. government ability to meet its financial commitments. According to Dozier's analysis, Bidenomix has proven disastrous for Americans. Rent has increased by 16%, like I alluded to earlier. And for those aspiring to own homes, mortgage interest rates have surged from approximately 3% at the beginning of Biden's term, which he benefited from because of what Trump policies did, to 7% today, more than double. This discrepancy can lead to differences of hundreds of dollars each month. Additionally, commuting expenses have once again risen as gasoline prices experience another surge. Like something else the media is ignoring. They are purposely ignoring this information to help Biden out. But, quote, the national average for gasoline was about $3.78 per gallon on Tuesday, roughly 25 cents higher than a month ago, according to AAA. According to a AAA reported the Associated Press on Wednesday. And former Reagan economist Larry Kudlow strongly criticized Biden's damaging economic strategies. Quote, after Joe Biden's $2 trillion American Rescue Plan, which was his flagship policy, the 6.5% economic growth achieved during Donald Trump's tenure plummeted to a 1% growth rate in Biden's first full year, spanning 2022 to early 2023, Kudlow noted in June. Furthermore, under Bidenomics, inflation escalated from 1.4% rate achieved during Trump's presidency to an alarming 9% inflation rate, undermining both family affordability and worker incomes, Kudlow, a host of Fox Business, added. Kudlow fittingly concluded his remarks with the metaphor in response to Biden's criticism of former President Ronald Reagan's economic policies. Kudlow quipped, quote, Reagan healed the sick, and Biden has infected the healthy. I love that. Unfortunately, according to Fitch Ratings, the situation is expected to worsen. And I said this a while ago. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets even any better. The main thing is we got to get Biden out of office. But, quote, Fitch Ratings forecasted a recession starting in the fourth quarter of 2023, later this year and continuing into the first quarter of 2024, according to their press release. The agency also predicted that the Federal Reserve would raise interest rates to between 5.5% and 5.75% by September, reported the Daily Caller News Foundation. And while Joe Biden may believe he has a reason to celebrate for his re-election campaign, the American public holds a different perspective. All you have to do is just look at the polls. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.